and you're ready for this next session about the untapped market. We'll be going over the Australian population and how many people are affected with disability and impairment in this country. So welcome, grab yourself a cup of tea, pen and paper, iPad, something to write notes down, and we will get started. First off, we do an acknowledgement of country. 30 Foot Drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and the community. We pay our respects to the Indigenous people, their cultures and beliefs, to both elders past and present. Sorry, my children are just interrupting me there. One moment, please. Sorry about that. Right, let's get back into it. Now, funding, 30 Foot Drop funding. 30 Foot Drop would like to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives. Without their help, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys wouldn't see the light of day and would be much more poorer as a community. So we thank them very much for the funding. This workshop is part of our Realities and Advantages of an Access and Inclusion Grant awarded to 30 Foot Drop as part of an Information, Linkages and Capacity Building Grant for 2018 and 2019. Housekeeping. We will now just go over some housekeeping on how we run the webinars. Unfortunately, we do not have all the resources to monitor all of our platforms. So if you do have a question for me, you will need to jump on the link below and head over to our website to send any messages to me, direct messages. So you jump in the live box and you can send a direct message. If you are watching from Facebook or YouTube, you won't be able to send a direct message through those platforms, but just follow the link below and you'll be able to send me a message. We'll be covering a lot of information in a short period of time, so we ask attendees to try and minimise any distractions, and I know that's hard in this current time because I'm currently being distracted, but we can only do our best. And make sure that if you talk about 30 Foot Drop on social media and stuff like that, please tag us and share our information, because the more people that can find out about what we're doing, the better we can make the community understand disability and impairment. We record every session, so if you did want to go back and review it again, you can then go back and review it again. And it is that once it's been recorded, it is then posted to our Facebook, YouTube and webpage. All the research that we reference in the webinars is all available under resources on our website. Into the website, which is www.30footdrop.com.au. Check it out on there. You'll see resources and you can find all the things that we talk about on there, but in more detail. And if you know anyone, please let them know about these workshops, and especially if they're going to benefit someone that owns a business or even someone with a disability and impairment, to give them positive encouragement to put themselves out there, and if they're looking for a job, and help people realise the changes that need to be made to be inclusive for people with disability and impairment. At the end of the webinar, we do have a short survey which we ask attendees to fill out before they go. So after we've finished, just follow this link below and there will be a survey part 3, which we would love if you could fill out. Okay, next is the introductions. I am Lisa and I'm one of the 2 wise monkeys. Hang on 1 minute. You can have what's in the freezer first, that's for school. Hang on 1 minute, I'm just going to get rid of my daughter. Sorry about that. It's my daughter's birthday tomorrow, and I've got the cupcakes in here that I've made for her school day tomorrow, and she's obsessing over having one. So, okay, so yes, I'm Lisa, and I'm one of the two wise monkeys. I am Hear No Evil. And the other monkey is See No Evil. He's Ben, and he is the brains behind the Two Wise Monkeys projects and 30-foot drop. His disability is more of an obvious one. He's in a wheelchair, and through his experiences, should I say, he realised that people just don't know enough about people with disability and impairment, and that's why they're sort of getting things wrong, because no one's educating them. So that's why we're here today, to educate people. And I am Hear No Evil. Through me, I hope that you will hear no evil about impairment once we have finished these webinars. So 30-something years ago, I was born 10 weeks premature, and with premature births there can sometimes come what's the word I'm looking for? Things that can go wrong later in life, or things that can happen from being prem. Anyway, at the age of 8, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. Teachers used to hit me on the head and read out my low marks in front of my classmates, and yell at me and stuff like that, making me feel completely dumb and unworthy. But despite these challenges growing up, I was determined to prove them wrong and very stubborn. So, with extra effort and extra help in the morning before school, which I absolutely hated, I pushed through, managed to do good at school, as good as I could do. In primary school was probably the most hardest, when you're learning everything for the first time. But as I got to high school, you're sort of learning things and going over and over, and then you're doing exams. So I did a lot better at high school, and I found out that, I was actually kind of good at art and photography. So I focused on those subjects and did really well with them, getting in the 90 percentile with those. So I went on to use that, gaining a arts diploma and a museum grade framing certificate, where I frame all kinds of artworks. I've worked all around the world in art galleries and picture framing places, and it's taken me far. So if you do know anyone that does struggle with a learning disorder, don't beat yourself up. It's hard not to, because you compare yourself to, that person can spell this and I can't, and I'm the same age, and all of that kind of thing. Just don't compare yourself to others. You will have something that you are good at. It's just a matter of finding it and sticking with that. And don't give up hope, because it does work out in the end. So That is the monkeys. When you look at the monkeys, isn't there supposed to be 3 wise monkeys? Where is Speak No Evil? I can see him behind me, but who is Speak No Evil? You guys can think about that for a minute. Speak No Evil is you tonight. The aim of tonight's workshop is to turn you into that wise monkey. You'll begin on a journey of realizing that, impairment or not, we are all human and deserve to be acknowledged and treated in the same way as anyone else. T-shirts are also available on our website, so follow this link below the video, go into shop, and you can get yourself a Speak No Evil t-shirt. So that is available in black and white from size 5 kids size to 5XL adult size. So if you like one of those, head over and get yourself one. Outline and method of tonight's workshop. So how are we going to get you started on the path of a wise monkey? Well, there's a lot to learn about people with impairment and their potential impacts on your business. We're going to examine the size of the market segment and what people with impairment represent, explaining who they are and the potential customer base. Then we will examine the potential impacts they can have on your business, and being both positive and negative. After covering all of the good stuff, we will finish off with an open forum before wrapping up for the night. So how are we going to cover this? What will our teaching method be? The answer is fun, open and honest discussion. If we can't be open and honest about disability and impairment and how we really feel, then things aren't going to change because no one's going to know about it. So we need to educate each other, and that is especially important for someone with a disability, to educate people around us about what we want and need. So you will notice as well that there's very little written content on the slides, and that is to make it easy to interact with the screen. And as far as when we're in a business setting, we go into businesses and do webinars, it's to make it easy to interact with each other also. There's not too much wording where you're trying to keep up with the wording. Some of the words you may not understand, all sorts of things. Our webinars are easy to follow. The colours are, there's not too much colours. It's easy on the eye, but it's also good for someone with a vision impairment or a hearing impairment. And if you are watching tonight and you do have a hearing impairment and you're finding it hard to hear me, you can jump over to our 30-foot drop Facebook page, turn the volume down, and you will get the subtitles. So if you wanted subtitles, jump over to the Facebook page. Right, now I will go over some terminologies of some words that people sometimes get mixed up with. And they are the difference between disability and impairment, and access and inclusion. Let's first go over impairment. Impairment is an injury, illness or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss or difference of psychological and physiological function. In short, your impairment is your medical diagnosis. So my medical diagnosis was mild dyslexia. A disability, on the other hand, is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level to others due to social and environmental barriers. It is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable to access something. So someone with a learning disability, too much wording, complex information, and sometimes stylized script can make it hard for people with dyslexia to understand. And that means they are not getting the right information that they need to use your business or service. Now, this is very important information to know because some people's impairments are hidden. So potentially you could be missing out on their business. So if I go somewhere and it's just too complicated for me, I just throw my hands up in the air and go, oh, not going to bother. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. So you've got to be aware that your marketing and your pages and websites need to be easy to understand to every human being, because some people struggle in ways that are hidden. If it's too overwhelming, if it's too complicated, people are just going to click off your page or stop reading. So something to be aware of for business owners there. So hopefully that makes sense so far, the differences between disability and impairment. Next we're going to talk about access versus inclusion. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, physical and attitudinal, to participate in activities and functions of the community. At its core, access focuses on the physical world around us and can be easily checked with a checklist. So if you are a business owner and you are unsure whether your business is fully accessible, you can jump onto our 30-foot drop webpage, and we have an accessibility checklist which is available under our resources. So you can check, are your door frames wide enough for someone with a mobility scooter or someone in a wheelchair? Are your door handles at reach for someone in a wheelchair or short stature? And other things to think about. Are your doors really heavy to push open? Could someone in a wheelchair with limited mobility in their arms push the door open? So little questions that you need to ask yourself and go around your business and check, oh, hang on, that's not going to work, or this is going to work better. Shall we move this out of the way? All these little things make such a huge difference to someone with a disability and impairment. And people, able-bodied people without any disability and impairments, just don't know, and that is why we are here. Lastly is inclusion. Inclusion is more of a psychological state of being and is a process hereby every person, irrespective of their age, disability, gender, religion, sexual preference, or nationality, who wishes to can participate fully in all aspects of an activity or service in the same way as everyone else in the community. Inclusion is making sure that every single human is included and can take part. So you own a cafe, someone's in a wheelchair, they've come in. Oh, sorry, no, you have to go through the kitchen. Now that's not being inclusive. That person is being pushed to another area where no one else really goes so that they can access your restaurant. So things like that are not inclusive. You need to make sure that your restaurant floor and the entrance is inclusive so that someone in a wheelchair can come in the front door like everyone else, and they can sit wherever they want. They're not just put in a corner where, oh, sorry, you can't come down to the water view area because there's a step. You know, you've got to think about these things. Just because they're in a wheelchair or they have limited mobility does not mean that they should be told that they can sit only in this area. They deserve to be inclusive. We all deserve to have the opportunity to do and say what we want. Okay, people with impairment, the untapped market share. Let's now look at recognising your market. Now, here's a business idea. Ignore the potential market. That's what many sports and athletic-related businesses did until they realised in the mid-1990s that they had been passing on a goldmine for women. Yes, you know, half the population that some thought should just be playing with Barbies and prams. Well, the 1990s was a turning point as the NBC's 1996 Summer Olympic Games coverage targeted women and sports much more than previously, and many more female-orientated sports advertisements, apparel and equipment lines emerged. So imagine that. Women would actually be interested in doing the same things as other human beings, being men, such as sports. Well, could many other businesses once again be ignoring and missing these other potential markets? Consider, for example, a population that has clear, persistent needs that are not being adequately fulfilled. This population spans the world and is growing and includes very motivated customers. And since this population is currently being underserved and misunderstood by many businesses, many of these lost customers would be very grateful and loyal to your business if their needs were met. Simple. This is a population, that has an estimated disposable income of Australia-wide of 54 million and growing. So, what is this population? Let's have a look. How big is this market share, and how do you think people with impairment? How big is this market share? Do you think people with impairment represent? So let's have a look at the numbers. Okay, here is Australians' 100% of the population. Ben assures me he's counted 100 people. Now, first up, there are approximately 5% of Australian population living with severe or profound disability or impairment. These are people who require assistance or have difficulty moving with mobility, communication, or self-care. Add to this 5% another 4%. So, adding the 4 to the 5%, you now have a population who are unpaid primary caregivers of people with impairment and disability. That is now a minimum share of 9% of the population potentially now missing out on products and services. That's a fair share, and it doesn't even include the family and friends that accompany this 9% going on holidays, for example. Now, recognising the market share. You may ask yourself, if it's such a big market share, then surely aren't they already being served? Aren't there games and services and events such as the Paralympic Games every 4 years for those with disabilities? Yes, we do have that. But that's a bit like saying to women who wanted to play sports in the 1970s, yeah, but don't you have hopscotch? While some businesses do seem to understand the market of people with disabilities, many do not. And that is why we are here. Research. Deloitte and the Australian Human Rights Commission released a report in 2017 called the Missing Out Report. The business case for customer diversity, and in it they represent their research findings about the missed opportunities that occur when businesses do not extend the values of fairness, equality and respect to other diverse customer bases. This research covered the diversity areas of gender equality, marriage equality, people with impairments, age, cultural diversity, and practicing a noticeable faith. It is well worth reading and can be found in our digital library. The findings there will shock you, and it is just crazy. And you'll find out a bit more soon once we get through the graphs, the percentages of people that are affected by businesses treating them unfairly. Let's get into those graphs now. So there's 4 of them here, and this was all done through the Missing Out Report, all of these findings. Graph 1. Here is the findings that the Missing Out Report had. As a customer, more people with impairment are finding that places often do not provide the products and services that they need. So that's 35% of people with an impairment that are not getting the products and services that they need. And that is another 27% who don't have an impairment but are also not getting what they need. Okay, now graph 2. As a customer over the last 12 months, I have usually engaged with organisations with fair and rejection or embarrassment because of personal characteristics. Okay, as a customer, over a quarter of people with an impairment usually have a fear of rejection or embarrassment when interacting with businesses. Now, that is a lot of scared customers, and we've got to ask ourselves, do scared customers spend well? I don't. Definitely not. 26%. Crazy. Now, graph 3. As a customer, over the last 12 months, I was often treated less favourably than other customers based on certain characteristics that I had. That is 1 in 3 people with an impairment or disability treated this way by a company or business because of their disability or impairment. So what percent? 38%. That is just awful. Now, graph 4. This one shocked us a lot too. This one is getting discriminated against by one or more organisation. This is almost 30% of people feel that they are being discriminated against by a company or business. Crazy figures. Once again, you are not going to spend money in these types of businesses if you are treated this way. So these stats show that there is definitely a market that is not having their needs met. Now let's have a look at who this market is and who are the people behind the stats. Me. Okay, who are these people? People with impairments are just the same as anyone else. We have passions, we have loves, we have families. We purchase consumer goods, we purchase food, clothing, cars, we go to the movies, we go out for dinner, we go on holidays, we have hobbies, but for some sad reason, we're treated differently because of the way we look, because of the way we appear to be. In short, people with impairment are active contributors to the community and the economy. As a result, we do represent a market share to businesses and organisations. Because we are that market share though, we are also able to impact your organisation or business, and how we do that is up to you. Potential impacts is next. Cara, what are you doing? Oh, Cara, it's not in here. You need to hop out, please. Yeah, that's for tomorrow. Can you please hop out? Go, please. That's for tomorrow. Off you go. Okay. Yeah, I'm working, Cara. Can you please? Sorry. Shut the door, please. Shut the door, both doors. Let's have a look at some of the impacts people with impairment can have on your business. And that is only a minority. And ethical consumerism. When it comes to minorities, people can often say, it's only minority. There isn't enough of them to make a difference. As discussed earlier, we can safely say it's about 9% of the population. What research has found is that people with impairment are a decisive and influential minority. Let's have a look at these next 4 graphs and look at the results closer. Ceasing transactions, graph 1. Over the past 12 months, I have ceased a transaction because I have felt I was treated unfairly. As we all know, purchasing power is in the hands of customers, and when people don't get what they want, either in terms of product or service, they cease a transaction. So that's 29% of people with an impairment ceasing a transaction. In the Missing Out report, they examine this closely and add other factors of respect and fairness. Graph 2. As a customer, in the last 12 months, I've ceased completion of a transaction because I felt I was not being treated with respect. This result in this report show that 1 in 5 customers without an impairment will cease a transaction. This jumps to 1 in 3 for people that have a disability or impairment when they are not treated fairly and with respect, showing that a negative experience is more likely to drive a customer away with an impairment. Sad. Next, dissuading others. This one's quite important. More than just walking away from a sale, people with an impairment are twice as likely than the rest of the population to dissuade others from using your product, service, or business. Twice as likely. Basically, if your company or business is not treating people with impairment and disability with respect and fairness, then your business is already being affected. Negative effects. We have been asked in the past if supporting diversity in businesses can have an adverse effect. Can it drive the current customers away? The Missing Out report found that yes, 12% of people were negatively affected by businesses' diversity reputation, but 58% were positively affected, and 30% that aren't too worried. Yes, you may lose that 12%, but you are gaining so much more. 58% is amazing. And you are gaining it and becoming more inclusive. This result is not impairment specific, but includes other minorities that can be quite decisive. Marriage equality, people with impairment, and older people. Key findings. Let's go over the key findings of these graphs. To finish this section off, I want to read to you the relevant key findings. Customers with an impairment are 3 times more likely to avoid organisations and twice as likely to dissuade others because of an organisation's negative diversity reputation. There is a good chance that if your business isn't accessible or inclusive, then it's already being impacted. We have covered the possible negative effects, but now let's look at the positive effects, which are ethical consumerism. What is it? Ethical consumerism is a form of political activism based on ideas that purchasers in the markets consume not only goods, but also implicitly embrace the process used to produce them, by choosing certain products over others, or even whether to purchase them at all. Consumers can embrace or reject particular environmental and labour practices and make other valuable claims based on the ethical values that they hold. Exercising choice in this way creates incentives for producers to make production practices which conform with their consumers' values. Successful campaigns waged by ethical consumer movements have popularised dolphin-free tuna, foods that are free from GMOs, sweatshop-free clothing, fair trade coffee, cosmetic products free from animal testing, and conflict-free diamonds. So people are going towards wanting those things and only buying those things, and hopefully that becomes more of a snowball effect. And that's what we want to happen with disability and impairment. It's become the norm that all of these things are in place for a reason, and you know, it needs to be accessible, it needs to be inclusive, and it's just how it is. Okay, applying to impairment. So how can ethical consumerism be connected to people with impairment? Who here has heard of the Quiet Hour? This is a program that has been piloted by Coles and Woolworths. For those who haven't heard of this, let me explain. Some impairments make some people hyper-aware of their surroundings, making activities such as going to the supermarket very, very challenging and overwhelming. So, at Coles and Woolworths, every Tuesday between 10:30 and 11:30 a.m, the store lighting is dimmed by 50%, the radio is switched off, register and scanner volumes are reduced to the lowest level, trolley collection is stopped, roll cages are removed from the shop floor. PA announcements are also stopped in case of an emergency, but except in case of an emergency. Free fruit is offered, customer service is there, and additional team are there to support customers. This is an amazing initiative and makes a great difference to many, many people. It has also increased the ethical reputation of both businesses. If you search the internet, you will see that it has been published all over Australia. So how do you think that has affected customers? That can only be a positive. I know that if I had, lots of people have phobias of going into big supermarkets with lots of people, or they just don't really like going out much. So having that opportunity to go out and do your shopping in a comfortable, safe atmosphere where there's help at hand and not too many people and not screaming kids around or whatever, knowing that you've got the opportunity every Tuesday between this time and that time to go and do your shopping, then that is an amazing initiative. Right, okay. Now we are going to do question time. And I will ask anyone that has any questions to please jump on and ask any questions. If you do have to go, please fill out the survey before you go. But right now I'm going to do an open forum. I'm not finished. Welcome back, everyone. There doesn't appear to be questions tonight, which is fine. I hope you all enjoyed tonight, and sorry about the little interruptions. Ben will be on tomorrow night, which many of you may be happy about to see him again. And I will be back in the morning to go over tapping in part 4, which is all about inclusive marketing. So have a good night, and if you have any questions, please send them along to our Facebook page or our website. I hope that you all have a good evening, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining me.